So like I said, my name is Marcus Taylor, and I'm just going to be going over sort of an overview of the request for proposal. So a little bit of background. The idea behind the Wood Innovations Grant is to expand and accelerate both wood energy and wood products markets in the United States to support forest management. Originally, it was focused on National Forest System lands, but in the past few years, we've expanded it to be able to affect any forest lands in the U.S. So the request for proposal supports the Agricultural Act of 2014, as well as the rural revitalization technologies, and really just the overall challenge of disposing with hazardous fuels, small diameter material, wood residues, and things like that in conjunction with supporting wood energy and wood products markets. So the grant has three primary goals that it seeks to address. First is to reduce hazardous fuels and improve forest health on all forest lands. And it's really important to note that for the request for proposal, this reducing hazardous fuels component, the grants should be focused on areas that are particularly susceptible to wildfire. That's a way to score points within the RFP, is to show that the area that will be treated, the forest lands that will be affected by the project, will take wood off of a land that has a significant wildfire risk. The second goal is to reduce the cost of forest management, and then the third is to promote economic and environmental health of communities. And so it's important to note that, you know, in the project description that you come up with, the way that you're sort of pitching your grant proposal, you want to try and hit all three of these things. It's not an either or. You want to address all of these in some fashion in the narrative that you come up with. So a little bit of history of the grant. In 2016, so a couple years ago, there was about $8.5 million that was awarded. That was spread across 41 awards nationally, and we received 77 proposals. So a little over half of the proposals got funded. Those were split relatively evenly between wood energy and wood products, a little more grants going to the wood products side of things, and it was matched by $18 million. Last year, we had a similar amount of funding. Originally, we had expected to get about $7.5 million, and we ended up getting a little over that. So came up with about $8.3 million in funding. That went to 38 awards, and we received significantly more proposals last year. We also expect this year to see significant proposals. And those were a little more skewed towards the wood products side of things in the last year, 26 going to wood products and only 12 going to wood energy in the nation. And that was matched by a lot more matching funds last year as well, over $37 million in matched leveraged funds. So looking at just Region 5, again, in 2016, there were 77 proposals that were received, 41 that were funded, and we received 7 awards here in Region 5. And so that translates to about 17, 18%. And here in Region 5, contrary to what happened in the national realm, we were a little heavier on the wood energy side of things and a little thinner on the wood product side of things. And that was also true in 2017. 38 projects were funded nationally. We again received 7 awards last year here in Region 5, and again, more wood energy than wood products. And that's just due to the successful applicants writing good grants. So apparently we have folks that are interested in wood energy here in R5 that are good grant writers. So this year we expect there to be about $7 million. Again, that funding is potentially a little bit fluid. It's unlikely to be less than $7 million. There could be a little bit more available, but we'll probably see it right at around 7 million, which would translate to maybe 28 or 30 projects, assuming that the cap for most projects is about $250,000. And that's, of course, excluding match funds. So that's what you're able to get from the funding. Eligible applicants, really the noteworthy thing here is that individuals are not eligible to apply. There has to be a business or a governmental entity or something like that. So obviously for-profit enterprises are eligible. Any form of government other than federal government agencies is eligible to apply. School districts, community organizations, NGOs and not-for-profits, and special purpose districts like municipal utility districts and things like that are all eligible to apply. You just can't be a federal agency and apply, or be an individual and apply. So it's important to note that So if you apply for the full 250,000 in your grant proposal, you're required to come up with 50% match. So that would be 125,000 in that case. If you go for 200,000, you would need to come up with 100,000 in matching funds, et cetera. And cash or in-kind match is allowed. So you're allowed to use services that your organization provides. The only thing is that federal salary can't be counted towards match. And the grants and cooperative agreements eligible for funding under this request for proposal are somewhere between 2 and 3 years typically. You can have grants up to 5 years if you can demonstrate within your proposal that you're going to be treating a significant amount of acres, having a significant effect in the wood product market or wood energy market that you're going after. You can go for up to 5 years. We typically don't like to do those. We want you to see your grant completed within a couple of years, maybe 3 years, but you are eligible to go up to 5 if necessary and if it's a larger, broader scale project. So I'll talk a little bit about the categories now. The first category is specifically dedicated to wood energy markets. And before getting into it, I will note, we've had questions in the past of, can you go for both categories, both wood energy and wood products? So for example, this would be with a biochar project where you've got a gasifier running and you're producing energy, but you're also producing a wood product in biochar. And so you want to focus on the category that is the primary intent of your project. So for example, in this situation, if your primary intent was to produce electricity through your gasifier or to produce heat through your gasifier, then you would want to go for a wood energy project. If your primary intent is to produce biochar and study the market or try and find a niche application for it or whatever, then you would want to go for wood products. So the intent of the wood energy is to stimulate, expand, or support wood energy markets generated from all forest land types. And so a prime example of a project within here would be a wood energy project that's currently in development, not an initial scoping at all, but that needs engineering designs, cost analyses, or permitting would be a great example of Category 1 grant. Category 2 is the expansion of wood products markets. The intent here is to promote markets that create or expand the demand for non-energy based wood products. And in the past few years, we've actually seen a specific focus with the Wood Innovations Grant on mass timber. Now, of course, any wood product is eligible under here, but we've seen a lot of successful grants in the previous years that have been going for mass timber projects, so something noteworthy. And you can kind of see that in the numbers for 2016 and 2017 started to skew relatively heavily to this category 2. And the reason for that is that we've had a lot of compelling cross-laminated timber and other mass timber projects that have scored really well. So examples of things that are eligible for funding under this category 2, training or outreach on innovative wood construction or developing manufacturing capacity at an existing facility, and developing markets for wood products. And so I'll just go over a couple of preferences here. A general preference for the entire program is that you want to utilize existing infrastructure. That's going to score you points on your proposal. And within the Category 1, preference has historically been given, and again, this is true for this year's request for proposal, that projects that bundle or address multiple wood energy projects and not a single project that will score higher. And it's also noteworthy that the technology employed in this Category 1, and this is true, of course, of the entire grant program, but this is something specific that we see every year within Category 1, the technology has to be commercially proven. And so what that means is that, if you're using a gasifier or a boiler or something like that, it can't be model number 1, serial number 1. It has to be a proven technology from an established manufacturer and, ideally come with a warranty or something like that. And then within grant Category 2, preference is given to projects that support commercial building markets or innovative wood products markets. And again, that gets back to what I was just talking about with mass timber. couple other noteworthy items for the request for proposal. As in previous years, you are not eligible to apply for equipment purchases or basic research. And there's a definition of basic research in the frequently asked questions document that's available on the work website. And we'll talk about the website here in a second, as well as construction, not eligible. Last year, there was an exception to the equipment purchase rule for computer numeric controlled routers, CNC routers. That has been removed from this RFP, so just verbatim, no equipment purchases are eligible this year. And then the last thing is that Statewood energy team, a utilization team, or an innovations team, they are eligible for funding under this proposal, but only if there is not an existing one in the state. So in California, we already have a statewide wood energy team. But for example, in Hawaii, they don't have something like that. And so a proposal to get something together like that in Hawaii would be eligible, but not for California. So just going over a little bit of the timeline. So the request for proposal has been open for close to 2 months now, about a month and a half. And the proposal deadline is the 22nd of January. That's a Monday. Larry and I would request that anybody putting in a proposal would talk to us earlier rather than later. And so the intent of that is for us to help you out and to give a read over of your proposal or talk to you about your idea and kind of give you strategies to be successful. Because we have a pretty good batting average in R5. I usually get about 20% of all the grants. And we want to keep that running. We want to help you be successful. And so, if you send us a proposal in a week, then we have, over a month to work with you. Whereas if you send us a proposal the week before, we probably won't have time to help you, flesh out a more solid proposal. If the awards will be announced sometime in mid-April. That date's a little bit fluid. Sometimes it'll happen in March, and sometimes it could be in early May. And then we expect the awards to be the funding to be available in the summer, hopefully by the 1st of July. So I'll just go over the evaluation criteria here. This has changed a little bit from last year. The first category, the alignment with the overall goals and intent of the request for a proposal, as well as aligning with the particular category that your proposal chooses, it gets 20 points. The description, narrative, and technical approach receives 30 points. And it's noteworthy that the project impact is worth 40 points this year. In previous years, it was worth 30 points. So if you're able to demonstrate that your project is going to have a large impact either on the market that you're going for or on treating a significant number of acres or removing a significant number of tons or board feet from the forest, then that actually gets more points this year. And it's important to note, this is a change from previous years, that within that project impact category, you get significant points for leveraging activities, actions, or funds above the minimum match requirements to maximize impact. So for example, if you're going for the full 250,000 and you provide only the minimum 125,000 match, then you won't gain extra points there. But if you can leverage additional activities or additional partners to be involved in the project that can bring match funds over and above the 50% requirement, then you will score more points, which is a change from last year. And then finally, there's less points. They shifted. It used to be 20 in that final category for qualifications of staff, organization, and partners. Now that's only 10. And it also includes past performance. So if you've held any federal grants before, it's important to note that in your application and how you did and your standing with the organization that granted the money. So just a couple last things before I switch over to Larry. This is a screenshot of the work website, and I've got the link here. So this is how you'll access the request for proposal if you haven't done so already, na.fs.fed.us/WERC. And then on the right-hand side, it's highlighted there in orange, is the link to the 2018 Grant Opportunity and Reporting. That will take you to this website, and down at the bottom, there are 3 links. There's some more below that, but the 3 most important ones are the instructions, the application, and the frequently asked questions and definitions. So be sure to go through all those. And then finally, the work website will be undergoing some maintenance at some point. We're not sure when. And so there's a mirror website, just in case you go to it and it's down, that's hosted on the U.S. Forest Service Washington office website. And I've got a link to that here. It's pretty much the same format. So just a few last things for me before we switch over to Larry. You have to submit your application by email to Larry or myself or both of us in PDF or Word format. We'll help you out, and this is what I was talking about earlier. We'd love to see your application early so that we can go over a draft and make any changes that need to be made. Then, in the coming year, we'll be the managers of the grants and participate in the cooperative agreements and help out with any of the communications or media activities relative to the award. So here's our contact information. This is Larry and I's email and phone number. And I've just got a link here, which Rick said that he would include in the chat box as well. That's where this recording will go, as well as the presentations that are given today. So that's ucanr.edu/R5WIG. And with that,